I worked the graveyard shift at Circle K a few months ago. I was 24, just trying to get by while going to college. It seemed like a simple way to pay my tuition. The store was dimly lit and quiet. The neon sign buzzed outside, but inside was different. It felt too still, like it was holding its breath. At first, everything was normal. I scanned items and filled the coffee machine. Not much happened during those night shifts. But on my second night, a customer caught my attention. He wore a faded hoodie and kept coming back to buy a single candy bar. He looked at me each time, like he was studying me. It sent a chill down my spine. I thought it was just my imagination. Around midnight, things began to shift a little. I heard footsteps echoing in the empty aisles, even when I was alone. It could have been the building settling. But then I noticed the shelves felt off. Items were misplaced, and I swore I had stocked something just moments before. I didn't want to sound crazy, so I kept it to myself. It felt like I was being watched, but I wasn't sure by whom. One night, while ringing up a customer, I was startled to see the same guy in the hoodie at the back of the store. He just stood there, staring at me. I had no idea how long he had been there. It was wrong. I tried to ignore him while serving other customers, but I felt his eyes on me like daggers. I told myself it was all in my head, that there was nothing to worry about. That's when I began getting texts from an unknown number. They were creepy. Are you alone? Or they are watching you. Each time my phone buzzed, my heart raced. Some nights, I heard scratching sounds from the back room. I wanted to check it out, but fear held me back. I thought about the woods outside, dark and looming. I felt like I was going crazy. Then that man came back. He stood at the counter for a long time, just looking at me. I finally asked, "Why do you keep coming back?" My voice shook. He didn't respond. He just turned and walked out into the darkness. I watched him go, half expecting him to turn back, but he didn't. Soon after, my phone buzzed again. A new message, "I'm just waiting." It crawled under my skin. I looked around, and the store felt smaller, like the walls were closing in. Part of me thought about quitting, but another part said it wasn't over yet. I think I was right because the dread hung over me with each shift. That night, I heard the door chime. I looked up. There he was again, staring this time with a grin. I felt my stomach drop. I didn't trust that smile. I wanted to scream but froze instead. I had no idea what would happen next. All I knew was I was still there, trapped in the dim light, waiting for something terrible to unfold. I couldn't move. The man's grin widened as he stepped closer to the counter. I felt like a deer in headlights, unable to decide whether to run or to scream. The door chimed again, and I turned quickly, half expecting to see a customer walk in. But the parking lot was empty, the darkness swallowing everything whole. "Why are you here?" I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. I could see his eyes glinting in the dim light, sharp and unsettling. He leaned on the counter, still smiling, but it felt like a mask concealing something sinister. "Just passing through," he replied, his voice smooth, almost too calm. There was something about his tone that made my skin crawl. I wanted him to leave, to just disappear back into the night like he always did. But he didn't move. "Passing through?" I repeated, trying to buy time, unsure if I could hold my ground. My heart raced, and I wanted to duck behind the counter. Instead, I forced myself to stand still. Before I could say anything else, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, praying it would be a friendly face or even a reassuring message. But it was from the same unknown number. "He not who he seems." I felt a surge of panic mixed with anger. "Who are you?" I blurted out, but I couldn't shake the focus back to the man before me. He was still watching, and I felt trapped in his gaze. "Did you think you could escape?" he asked, a hint of mockery in his voice. My breath caught in my throat. What did he mean? Then, as if the air shifted, I heard that scratching noise again. Louder this time, coming from the back room. I turned my head slightly, my mind racing. Was I really going to ignore it? Was it connected to him? Why are you doing this? I found myself asking, more out of desperation than curiosity. The man chuckled softly, but the sound sent a wave of chill through me. There's so much you still don't know, he said. In that moment, I decided I had to confront whatever was happening. I couldn't let fear keep me rooted in place. I took a step back and grabbed the store's phone, ready to dial 911. But the instant I turned my back to him, I heard a crash from the back room. A loud thud that shook the ground beneath me. What was that? I spun around, heart racing. The man was gone. Just like that, he had vanished. It didn't matter if he was in the shadows, it felt like he melted into the darkness itself. The thumping continued, growing louder. I hesitated but finally moved toward the back room, dread pooling in my stomach. I pushed the door open slowly, the hinges creaking like they were protesting against my decision. That's when I saw it. An overturned box of supplies sprawling across the floor, a trail leading deeper into the darkness. And then I realized the box had an old, dusty mask lying on top, its eyes hollow and empty. That's when everything went still. I wasn't alone anymore. I froze. The air felt electric, charged with an unseen presence. My mind raced, searching for a logical explanation, but nothing made sense. The only sound was the thudding from deeper in the room. I felt a pull to investigate, but every instinct screamed at me to turn and run. I stepped inside, the flickering light casting shadows that danced along the walls. The mask caught the light, its hollow eyes seeming to follow me. I grabbed it, my fingers trembling as I turned it over. It felt heavy, wrong somehow, the kind of wrong that sank deep into your gut. That's a nice piece, isn't it? The voice came from behind me, smooth as silk. I whipped around, clutching the mask tight. The man from before stood in the doorway, a satisfied smirk on his face. I didn't expect you to find it so soon. Get away from me! I shouted, my voice stronger now. I took a step back, heart pounding. Why? I thought you wanted to know the truth, he said, tilting his head amused. His eyes sparkled with something sinister. That mask belonged to a previous owner of this establishment. He had a penchant for secrets. The scratching sound was back, this time accompanied by a low, raspy wheeze. It came from the shadows behind him. I felt my stomach lurch. What's back there? I asked, my voice faltering. Just memories and perhaps a few visitors. He stepped closer, an unsettling glimmer in his eyes. They don't like being disturbed. I looked at the door, weighing my options. I could either try to escape or confront whatever was behind him. Thin walls of courage started to build, but they folded under the weight of fear. Why are you doing this? What do you want? I asked, trying to keep the quiver from my voice. The man laughed lightly, a sound devoid of warmth. But it's more about what you want. You were chosen for a reason. Just think, once you see what's hidden, you'll never look at this place the same way again. My grip tightened around the mask. I don't want any part of this. You already are, he said coolly, pointing to the mask. You can't turn back now. I felt a pulling sensation deep within me, an urge to put on the mask, to know whatever dark truth it held. I shook my head, trying to resist. No! But then something unthinkable happened. The shadows behind him moved. They were no longer just darkness. They were shapes, twisting into forms that lurked and writhed. My breath hitched as I realized they were coming closer. Join us, the man said softly, his grin unnerving. Let us find out together. Then, the lights flickered violently, and the shadows engulfed him. I stumbled back, terror clawing at my mind. Almost instinctively, I grabbed the mask and hurled it across the room. It hit the wall, the sound echoing in the silence that fell around us. My heart raced. That's when I heard it, a whisper, chilling and enveloping. We see you. Everything went dim. I blinked hard, trying to clear my vision. The darkness was thick and heavy, wrapping around me like fog. It felt suffocating. I was alone now. The man, the whispers, everything had vanished into the shadows that pulsed around me. Dread twisted inside as I fumbled for the doorframe, my hands brushing against the cool, rough wood. I had to get out of there. The thought of what I just witnessed consumed me. I was still trembling from the encounter. My heart thudded against my ribs, a constant reminder of my survival instinct. I stumbled through the door. The hallway was eerily quiet, as if the house itself held its breath. I rushed toward the stairs, desperate to feel solid ground beneath my feet. Each step echoed in the stillness, the wood creaking under my weight. When I reached the living room, something caught my eye, an old photograph on the mantel. I moved closer, instinctively drawn to it. It looked like a scene from a different time, a family gathered around a table, their smiles wide but hollow. Something felt unsettling about the image. I leaned in, trying to make out the faces, and then I noticed a figure in the corner, half hidden in shadow, looking directly at the camera. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice trembling as I tried to process what I was seeing. A chill ran down my spine. I felt like I was being watched from beyond the frame. Suddenly, the air shifted. I glanced back down the hallway. The shadows flickered as if they were moving, and a sense of unease settled in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being toyed with. This isn't real, I muttered to myself, yet the weight of dread lingered. Then, as if in response to my thoughts, a noise echoed from the back of the house. A low thud, then another. I felt frozen, caught between the urge to investigate and the instinct to escape. With a deep breath, I decided to follow the sound. As I crept toward the source, I found myself in a cluttered room filled with old furniture and boxes. Dust motes danced through the slivers of light coming from a lone window. The thud came again, louder this time. I peered around the room, my heart racing as fear gripped me. That when I saw it, a shadow moving in the corner. It wasn't just a trick of the light, it was something more. It shifted, becoming more defined, and I realized it was a figure, a woman with hollow eyes staring right back at me. I gasped, stepping back. "What do you want?" My voice trembled, a mix of confusion and terror. She didn't speak, but the atmosphere thickened with an unspoken demand. I had to know who she was, what she wanted from me. All I wanted was to escape this house, but now I felt drawn into its depths. With a trembling hand I reached out toward her, forgetting the fear, seeking understanding. But before I could make contact, the room shook, the light flickered wildly, and a loud crash echoed from downstairs. I turned on my heel, adrenaline surging through me. Whatever this was, it was escalating quickly. I needed to get out before whatever was stirring below could reach me. My thoughts raced as I moved towards the door, knowing deep down that the secrets of this place were far from over. The moment my foot crossed the threshold of that cluttered room, I felt a shift in the energy around me. It was palpable, a weight pressing down on me. I pushed through the door, ready to flee, but the echoes of the crash downstairs held me back like a thief in the night, hesitating before committing the heist. I needed to know what had caused it. It was a terrible mix of terror and curiosity that pulled me toward the staircase. Each step down felt like a leap into the unknown. The house groaned around me, as if warning me to turn back. I reached the bottom and paused, straining to listen. Silence enveloped me, but it was different from before, thick and suffocating. I could almost taste the tension in the air. I glanced toward the kitchen, the source of the noise. A gust brushed past me, chillier than before. The hairs on my neck stood on end. Then something moved. The corner of my eye caught it, a shadow shifting in the doorway. My breath hitched. I squinted, trying to see more clearly. Then there it was again, the figure of the woman from the room above, her outline flickering as if she were made of smoke. "Why are you here?" I whispered into the emptiness, but she didn't respond. Instead, she pointed a slow, deliberate motion toward the kitchen. I stepped back, feeling the cold seep into my bones. Why couldn't she just leave me alone? But something compelled me to follow her gesture. Against every instinct urging me to run, I found my legs moving toward the kitchen. As I entered, I was met with a scene that made my stomach churn. The kitchen table, usually tidy, was now littered with broken dishes and spilled contents. One shattered plate lay menacingly on the floor, gleaming like teeth against a pool of dark liquid. I realized it was blood. I staggered back, my heart racing into a frenzy. This can't be happening, I gasped, trying to anchor myself. That's when I caught a glimpse of something glinting beneath the table. I knelt down, my fingers trembling as I reached for it. It was a knife, stained with the same dark liquid. My thoughts spiraled. I couldn't breathe, the reality of what I was holding hitting me like a wave. Shapes flashed in my mind, images of the woman's hollow eyes and that eerie family photograph. Then, a sudden crash from behind me stole my focus. I whipped around, adrenaline surging again. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice barely more than a whisper. I felt a cold draft swirl through the room, and the shadows on the wall danced as if they were alive. Just as I turned to leave, a low growl rumbled from somewhere in the darkness. I froze, fear clawing at my throat. Whatever was in this house didn't want me to leave. I realized then that I might uncover more than I bargained for, and my body screamed for escape. Bolting past the kitchen door, I was met with the hallway that led to the exit. But it was blocked. The woman stood there now, her figure obscured, a barrier that held me captive. I had to get out. She had to let me go. "This isn't over," she whispered, her voice echoing in my mind, chilling me to the core. I didn't understand what she meant, but one thing was clear: I needed to find a way to break free from whatever this was. With my heart pounding, I turned back to face her, ready to confront my fears. But just as I opened my mouth to speak, everything around me went dark. When the darkness fell, it wrapped around me like a suffocating cloak. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but my feet were planted to the floor. What was happening? Was I losing my grip on reality? Gradually, dim light returned, revealing the room again. But it wasn't the same. The kitchen appeared distorted, as if I were seeing it through broken glass. The blood was gone from the floor, the shattered dishes perfectly arranged on the table. Everything had reverted to an eerie normalcy that felt more unsettling than the chaos I'd just witnessed. I blinked, the confusion overwhelming me. Had I imagined it all? Maybe I just needed to get out of the house. I stepped back cautiously, still wary of the woman blocking the hallway. To my surprise, she was gone. The air felt different, lighter, but I didn't trust it. "Is anyone there?" I croaked out, my voice breaking the stillness. No reply. Only silence filled the space. "Go." That's what my mind screamed. The front door was just a few steps away. I hesitated, recounting the seconds lost in that darkness, the fear that had gripped me. My heart raced as I tiptoed toward the hallway. The moment I reached the edge of the kitchen, the room shuddered again. A rattling sound broke the stillness, emanating from somewhere near the staircase. I froze, spine stiff with dread. The noise grew louder, accompanied by a series of soft whimpers. "No," I whispered, fear clenching my stomach. What now? Against every ounce of common sense pushing me to flee, I moved toward the staircase. I glanced up, light flickering at the top. I crept forward cautiously, my ears straining for clues. As I approached the first step, I noticed a figure at the top. It was a girl no older than 10 with a pale, gaunt face. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but her expression was blank. "Help me," she uttered, her voice barely a whisper but sharp in the silence, cutting into me. "Where are you?" I asked, the question spilling from my lips before I could think twice. I wanted to move closer, but something held me back. "Please," she pleaded, a tinge of urgency creeping into her tone. "You have to find it. You can't let him go." Panic rose within me. Let him go? Who? I felt my pulse quicken as I tried to process what she was saying. My heart raced at the thought of something still lurking in this house, something that wasn't done with me yet. But then the shadows seemed to shift, swirling and tightening the grip around the girl. I blinked, my vision blurred, and she faded, her voice echoing in my mind even as she vanished. "You have to find it." I staggered back, breathless. Was she talking about the knife? Was it a clue or a curse? My options were dwindling. I needed answers, needed to understand why I was caught in this twisted fate. And if something was still watching me, waiting for that moment of vulnerability, I had to be ready. Another crash rang out, shaking the very walls. I turned, my heart hammering. I had to choose, confront whatever had caused that sound or go back to the kitchen and search for the knife. It was an impossible decision that left me feeling trapped. But the ice in my veins hardened my resolve. I had to act. Whatever this was, it wouldn't keep me powerless for long. A low growl rumbled again in the distance, and I felt the pressure of time slipping away. Taking a deep breath, I moved. I was going to uncover the truth, and I wouldn't rest until I knew what had happened in this house. I took one step toward the staircase, the growl echoing off the walls like a challenge. The darkness felt oppressive now, as if it were alive, watching my every move. I fought against the dread pooling in my stomach. I needed to confront whatever waited at the top of those stairs. As I stepped onto the first riser, the wood creaked under my weight. I stilled, holding my breath, waiting for the growl to return. But all I could hear was my racing heart, beating wildly against my ribs. I could see the flickering light above, casting twisted shadows that danced ominously. "Where are you?" I whispered, half expecting an answer. Instead, silence pressed down harder. With shaky hands, I climbed the rest of the steps, one at a time. The noise had stopped, yet an unsettling stillness filled the air. I reached the landing and glanced around. The hallway stretched before me, its walls lined with faded portraits of people whose eyes seemed to follow me. The weight of their gaze sent a shiver down my spine. As I moved deeper into the hallway, I noticed a door slightly ajar at the end. A gentle light seeped through the gap, flickering like a candle. The girl's words echoed in my mind, urging me forward. "You have to find it." What was I supposed to find? My curiosity drove me closer, despite the dread clawing at my insides. I reached the door and pushed it open. The room was small, cluttered with dusty toys and old furniture. It smelled musty, like a forgotten memory. I scanned the space. Nothing seemed out of place until I spied a shadow in the corner. It quivered slightly, as if alive. I stepped closer, heart pounding. A small box sat on the floor, glimmering faintly in the dim light. It looked ancient, decorated with intricate carvings nothing I'd ever seen before. A cold chill rushed through me. That's when I saw it, a glimmer of metal poking out from beneath the box, something sharp. My breath caught in my throat. Was this the knife? Instinct screamed at me to leave it alone, but I leaned down, curious. Just as my fingers brushed the box, the light went out completely. Darkness enveloped me, and I stumbled back, pulse quickening. My vision adjusted slowly, but I could still feel a presence. The low growl returned, now closer, rumbling with menace. Panic surged. I turned to run, but something blocked my path. A figure loomed in the darkness, tall and distorted, its features hidden. I felt the air freeze around me. "Help her," it said, voice like gravel. Time stood still as realization crashed over me. The girl and whatever this was, they were linked. "Who are you?" I croaked, backing away. The shadows shifted, surrounding me, but my fear turned to determination. "Find it. Don't let him take her," the voice hissed again, louder now. That's when everything snapped into focus. I needed to uncover the truth not just for myself but for the girl trapped in this nightmare. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, revealing the empty room once more. The figure had vanished, leaving only the box and the knife glinting beneath it. I had no choice. I reached for the box again, heart racing. What lay inside could change everything. But just as my fingers grasped it, the growl roared back. I wasn't alone anymore. I needed to act fast. I had to make a choice before whatever haunted this place descended upon me again. With a sudden jolt, the growl echoed through the room, shaking me from my thoughts. The instinct to flee warred with the need to know what the box held. I hesitated, fingers poised above the carvings, adrenaline pumping through me. "Stay focused," I whispered to myself, a mantra against the fear creeping in. I could either back away into the shadows or commit to finding out what was in the box. My decision crystallized in a flash of resolve. I had come too far to turn back now. I gripped the lid and lifted it slowly. The hinges creaked in protest, sending a shiver down my spine. Inside, a collection of strange objects lay nestled in dark red velvet. There were trinkets shaped like animals, tiny dolls with glassy eyes, and a dagger whose blade glimmered eerily in the flickering light. But one item caught my breath: a silver locket, its surface engraved with a symbol I didn't recognize. "Is this what I'm meant to find?" I asked aloud, but the room offered no answers. Suddenly, the air thickened, and the temperature dropped. The growl morphed into a snarl, fierce and reverberating. Whoever or whatever was hunting me was close. I scooped the locket into my palm, feeling its cold weight. The urge to run clawed at me, but I stood my ground. "I don't want to be part of this," I shouted into the blackness, my voice quaking with uncertainty. A low chuckle followed, sending a wave of ice through me. Too late, the voice haunted me, echoing through the room like a mocking specter. I felt a rush of warmth by my ankle. A flicker of movement drew my gaze, and there it was, a small figure darting between the toys on the floor. My heart raced. Had I seen it before? The girl from my dreams? She had to be connected to all this. "Wait!" I called out, sprinting toward the shape. But in an instant, it vanished into thin air. Panic surged as I spun back toward the box, realizing it had closed on its own. My fingers brushed the lid, but the energy pulsing from it was like a warning tremor. Whatever was inside didn't want to be disturbed. I had to figure this out fast. My hands felt clammy as I scanned the room again, searching for any sign of her or anything that could help me understand. Memories flickered back to life, the girl's wide eyes, the urgency in her voice. Then it hit me. "Find it, don't let him take her," I muttered. Whoever he was, he had something to do with the girl's fate. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions now. Gathering a deep breath, I steadied myself and forced myself to reopen the box. No further growl threatened, but I felt a weight resting on my shoulders, like the shadows were holding their breath, waiting. Inside, I noticed the locket glowing softly. I reached for it again, determination flooding my veins. But as soon as my fingers wrapped around the cool metal, the growling erupted once more, fiercer and more possessive than before. Whatever was here didn't want me to find out the truth. The air crackled with tension, and I knew I was running out of time. I needed answers. The girl was waiting for me, and I couldn't let her down. "Come on," I urged myself, heart racing as I clutched the locket tighter. Familiar warmth enveloped me, and with one last look behind, I plunged into the unknown, ready to confront whatever evil tried to stop me. The locket felt alive in my hand, vibrating gently as I turned it over, seeking any clue. The symbol seemed to pulse in rhythm with my racing heart. I fumbled with the clasp, determined to open it. As I pulled it free, I was struck by a sudden rush of air, like a gust of wind had swept through the room. Then everything went dark. Panic seized me. I was engulfed in a pitch-black void, unable to see my hands or even my breath. My skin prickled with dread. I stumbled forward, disoriented, searching for anything to grasp onto. Just as I felt the coolness of the wall brush against my fingertips, the darkness lifted as quickly as it descended. Claustrophobia squeezed my chest, but I forced myself to regain my balance. I was back in the room, but something had changed. The air was charged with a heavy tension, and the box sat ominously closed in front of me. The dark velvet now looked worn and tarnished. A low growl thrummed beneath the silence, palpable and angry. "Stop it!" I shouted, fighting against the fear that threatened to swallow me whole. My breath came out in quick bursts. "What do you want from me?" In response, a presence swirled around the room, dark and suffocating. It was like being caught in a whirlwind of shadows. I realized I wasn't alone. Hands trembling, I still clutched the locket against my chest, unwilling to let it out of my grasp. That was when I heard a faint whisper, distinct and pleading. "Help me!" The voice sliced through the tension, urging me to look around. I scanned the space, heart thumping loudly in my ears. The shadows elongated and twisted, and soon, the small figure reappeared. It was her. The girl from my dreams. The dream I had tried to recall so often now flooded back. "Stay away from him," she cried, her eyes wide with fear. It was like she was staring right through me, as if she could see the danger that shadowed my every move. "Who?" I instinctively asked, glancing nervously at the box. Was whatever was inside responsible for her sadness? The girl pointed towards a corner where a darker shadow loomed. A man, or at least a silhouette, took shape within the murky depths. I recognized the aura of malice emanating from him, aggressive and menacing. "He'll take you too," she urged, voice cracking with desperation. "What does that mean?" My voice trembled, dread prickled at my spine. I stepped back, and the man shifted, creeping closer. In that moment, everything clicked into place. The locket was a key, not just to understanding, but to confrontation. "I will find you," I promised her, my own fear morphing into determination. I couldn't let him take her away. Then the shadows surged forward, trying to envelope me, trying to pull me into their depths. "Help me!" she cried out again, but her figure began to waver. Time was running out. Just as I braced myself to face the darkness, I felt an unexpected warmth from the locket in my palm. I had to trust it. Whatever it held, I needed to unlock its power. With a sudden rush of courage I didn't know was there, I thrust the locket towards the encroaching shadow. The world around me shifted, and I felt the air crackle with energy. "Show me!" I shouted, demanding answers. But as the shadows writhed for dominance, I knew I was stepping into a new danger. And that voice came again, more urgent this time. But what lay ahead was still unclear. The air around me shimmered, thick with an otherworldly energy as the shadows pulsed. I gripped the locket tight, the cold metal warming in my hands. "Show me!" I repeated, my heart racing, but this time it felt like the walls were listening. Suddenly, a flash of light erupted from the locket, illuminating the room and dispersing the darkness momentarily. I squinted against the brightness, and in that moment, a vision unfolded before me. I saw the girl, the hollow-eyed woman, and the man from my nightmares intertwined in a macabre dance of shifting memories. The jagged edges of their lives sliced through my perception, a family torn apart by secrets, a child trapped in an endless cycle of fear. It all began to click. The girl was bound to this place, and the man was the keeper of her sorrow. "She needs to be freed," I murmured, my voice breaking the echo of the vision. "But how?" The shadows writhing around me seemed to react to my words. They fluctuated and twisted, as if waiting for the right moment to strike back. The girl's figure returned, her expression softened under the light. "Do it, please," she urged, hope flickering in her eyes like a dying flame. The growl intensified from the dark corner, and the man stepped into the light, half-formed and jagged, a grotesque shadow of who he had been. "You think you can save her?" he hissed, snarling as he advanced. "You don't understand the game you're playing." Before I could respond, my grip tightened around the locket again, toying with the idea of using it against him. "You've held her captive for too long," I shouted defiantly. "It ends tonight." Instantly, another flash erupted from the locket. The light expanded, engulfing the room and pushing back the shadows. I felt the mingled sense of fear and courage wash over me as the energy took form. I didn't know how I was doing it or if it was even possible, but something within me shifted. I wanted to believe I could break this cycle. The man screeched, the echoes of his voice mingling with the wails of the shadows. "No! You can't take her!" "Watch me," I replied, taking a step forward, ready to challenge him. In that moment, I thrust the locket toward him, and the light burst forth with blinding intensity. I felt a pull, then a sweep. The shadows struggled against the brilliance, the dark forms unraveling in the light's wake. The growling subsided, replaced by a cacophony of whispers that echoed through the room, fragments of lost souls, trapped cries, and promises broken. As they mingled, the temperature plunged, and I felt the fabric of the house tremble. Then, just like that, the woman appeared beside the girl. There was no malice in her gaze, now only understanding. "Reclaim what belongs to you," she said softly. The shadows surged one last time, but with a deep breath, I willed the light from the locket to expand even further. In that blinding brightness, I felt a release. My heart quickened, and the darkness withdrew, howling but retreating. The house shuddered with a final release, and the girl extended her tiny hand towards me. "Take me away!" Before I realized what I was doing, I reached for her. Our hands met, warmth flooding between us. In a whirlwind of energy, the shadows whirled, then collapsed into nothingness. The man's final cry echoed through the void, a mix of anger and fear that dissipated into silence. Just as quickly as it began, the light faded, and when my vision cleared, I was back in the cluttered room. The woman and the girl stood before me, free at last. "Thank you," the girl whispered, her voice warm, encompassing all the light that had surged within moments ago. But as the air began to settle, questions tangled in my mind. Had I truly saved them? Was the man gone for good, or merely waiting in the wings for another chance? "I have to go," I realized, a strange mix of relief and urgency taking hold of me. I made my way toward the door. "You'll be okay, right?" The woman nodded, and the girl smiled softly again. "We will be, thanks to you." I stepped into the hallway, heart still pounding. As I reached the front door, I felt the quiet peace of the house encompassing me. But the lingering questions traveled with me. Were the shadows truly gone? Or would they rise again, fueled by another dark tale? Would the cycle repeat itself somewhere else? I opened the door and stepped into the cool night, breathless with uncertainty. The stars twinkled above, oblivious to what transpired within those walls. I took a deep breath, deciding to leave behind my past, but knowing I couldn't completely escape its shadows. And as I walked away, the echoes of their grateful whispers lingered in the air, a reminder that although I had escaped, the haunting stories of those haunted by darkness may never truly end.